Yeah, it might be.
All right, we're live.
Hello, and welcome to Course Selection Demystified, our webinar to the parents of the classes of 2026 and 2027, so our rising sophomores and our rising juniors. We're hopeful that this webinar will help demystify some of the questions you may have about course selection for your son or daughter. So I'd like to welcome our webinar participants here and presenters with the entire counseling staff. And for those of you who I haven't met, my name is Brenda Posnanski, and I'm the Director of School Counseling and Admission here. And with us today is also Mr. Mullen. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody.
Ms. Tenza.
Hi there. Welcome.
Ms. Futrell.
Hello, welcome.
And Ms. Leonard.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
And with us, we're very happy to have is Ms. Ellen Gillis, who is our registrar.
Hello, everyone.
So today we're going to go over the course selection calendar, the explanation of the program of studies, our explanation of how the selection process happens and what the program is all about. Ms. Gillis is going to help us with the online registration process for those of you who have not done this before, which would be the rising sophomores, and just go over sort of the intricacies of that process. Ms. Tenzo will go over about course selection and things to think about, like balanced schedule and things like that. Ms. Leonard will, again, help us mark our calendars for future events that are coming up. And any questions that parents have shared with us, we sent out a couple of push pages asking you to ask us some questions, and some people responded. So we will answer those questions at the end of the course selection process. And then we have a brief AP or advanced placement presentation for any students that are interested in taking AP courses. And it's important for parents to understand the requirements and the expectations of AP. So without further ado, I'd like to have Ms. Leonard talk about course selection calendar.
Hi, welcome again. So next Monday on March 11th, we will be distributing the program of studies for the 2024 to 2025 year to our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. We'll be meeting with each class as a whole during the day to go over that process. And the online program to start picking courses will open at 3 o'clock on the 11th. March 12th, we'll have this parent info webinar posted, which you can watch or reference it at your leisure. And we'll post it in MyBG where it will be easily accessible for you. And on March 18th, we will have the online program close at 8. So it's important for students to go in and pick their courses before then. Otherwise, the counselors will be picking the classes for you. And we don't want to do that. We want you guys to pick the courses that you want ultimately. So we really encourage you to meet that deadline. From March 19th to the 22nd, our department chairs of all of our subjects will review the honors or AP requests, and they'll let the counselors know, and we will follow up with students as needed to let them know if they need to choose otherwise, or just kind of meet with them to finalize their selections for the next school year. And if at any time during the process a student has a question or concern or is confused, we always encourage you to reach out to us via email, phone call. You know, the student can come in during the school day to meet with us. We're here. We know it can be kind of a tricky process sometimes, so we're here to support you as much as needed during the process. On March 28th, we'll have final requests posted in MyBG, and then AP contracts will also be due that same day, and Mrs. Posnanski will go over that AP process later in the presentation. So we're coming up on that quick, so it's just really important to get these things done sooner rather than later. And then over the summer is when you will see your preliminary schedules available on MyBG. And no teacher listings will be there, just your class schedule at that time. And I think that's pretty much it, unless anyone wanted to add anything that I might have missed. Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to talk a little bit, excuse me, about the program of studies itself. The program of studies is the book that every student gets every year when they look to determine the classes they want to take. They'll get their new copy March 11th when the counselors meet with each of the individual classes, and then a PDF version of the POS will be posted on the BG website. I'll refer back to last year's in a few minutes just so you can kind of see what it looks like. But the program itself is considered to be the Bible of the academic offerings for each grade and level of students. All the course descriptions, flowcharts, prereqs, and all the academic information that any student will need will be in this book. And then on the last 2 pages, there is a typical 4-year course sheet that Mrs. Futrell will go over, and then a blank sheet that students are encouraged to fill out on their own if they're looking to see what classes they need to take and want to take over the last 2 to 3 years of their high school career. So at this point, I'm just gonna share my screen with everybody to show them what the program of studies looks like and what I'm actually talking about. All right, so what I was talking about is page 3 of the program of studies. You'll see the list of graduation requirements that every student needs to take, and it's broken down by department. So what we really stress to the students during our presentations next week will be that they make sure that they're looking at all the classes listed here by subject, and that they go through them year by year and make sure they're taking them. Now, the counselors themselves will also double check that they're making sure that they're taking everything. But you really want to pay attention to the core classes on here that you're taking in order to satisfy all of the graduation requirements. There's going to be room for electives that students will have the opportunity to take each year, but every year they're going to have certain requirements they have to take. So they want to make sure when they go through the drop-down box, which Ms. Gillis will explain, that they're taking whatever is the grade level appropriate class in the subject so that they satisfy all of the graduation requirements. That's on page 3. If you go to page 4 of the POS, you'll see the description of the course leveling. We have honors, advanced placement, and college prep. They'll also see kind of a breakdown of how a student is placed into honors and AP. So when students do the course selection process online, they'll have the opportunity to sign up for any level of courses they want. But honors and AP are determined by the prerequisites of the course, which you'll find in each of the catalog descriptions, as well as teacher approval and department chair approval. So the counselors themselves don't make those decisions. So once a student selects the course, like Mrs. Leonard said, the portal will then close, and then students will be reviewed by the department chairs based off of their current grades in the class, teacher recommendations for the current class, and other prerequisites. If a student is denied, then they will make note of it, and the counselors will go in and change that, like Mrs. Leonard said. And then we will give the students that are denied a rationale as to why, whether it's grade, teacher recommendation, not taking the appropriate class, whatever it may be. And then the students can certainly speak with the department chairs if they want to, as to what they need to do to improve by the end of the year. And if they do that, then the student hits the benchmark. They will then touch base with their current teacher and or the department head and request the honors or AP course again. And then the department head will then send an email or a confirmation to the student and the counselor, who then updates their schedule online, whether it's over the summer or at the end of the school year, so that the student can be placed into the appropriate class. And all the information is on page 4. And then if a student was to scroll down, you would see the GPA weighting scale, the list of honor roll, and then the flow charts is broken down by each subject. So for this one, this is computer science. So the students can see kind of the typical path a student would take or need to take if they want to get to an AP computer science class. Every department has this, and the students can use this as kind of a reference when they're looking to decide as to what classes they were going to take. And you'll see kind of under, let's take computer aided fundamentals, for example, you'll see the prerequisites. So you cannot take this class unless you've completed an exploration to computer science class. So every class that has this will have whatever the prereq is. The students want to double check that they're taking the right class if they're looking to take a class down the line, whether it be junior, senior year, because the program will outline what needs to be done in order for a student to take a certain level class as they move forward here at BG. I think we can go back. Let me just stop sharing. And I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Futrell, who's going to talk a little bit more.
So I'm going to talk about the the explanation of the online course selection, which Ms. Gillis is going to go into in a moment about how you go through the process. So it's set up so that students choose courses online through a portal in MyBG. So all of this is done electronically, and they will do it through MyBG. It's systematically aligned to choosing 7 periods worth of classes. So students are going to have that 8th period that will be a study. They can't choose a study, it will just be put into their courses once that rolls out. And it's designed specifically for each grade level. So when Ms. Gillis gets to showing you how to use the program, certain grades will have certain courses already put in there. So for instance, as a rising sophomore, Catholicism will already be in their schedule for them. So they'll see that as they go through this process. And it fits with an 8-period rotation. So it's aligned so that students don't have to worry about certain classes that they need to take. And it helps them take courses that they need to look at. If a student has taken a course, it will indicate that as well. And it also does have information on some of the things that you find in the program of studies in MyBG, so they can see a little blurb of what the course has to offer. Mr. Mullen referenced the program of studies having a outline of what the courses look like and how a breakdown of a 4-year plan. And this is the 4-year plan. When you're looking at the 4-year plan, for those of you, that have done a freshman, sophomore, or junior year class, you can see as a freshman or a 9th grader, these are the classes that you've taken: exploration of computer science, intro to lit, art, PE, algebra 1, Bible, biology, your civics class, and then your language. And so this is the breakdown that you have. And as you're going and creating your 4-year plan, if you use what's in the back of the program of studies, you can map out what your 4 years will look like. So you need to have, if you're using what Mr. Mullen showed in the program of studies for the credits that you need, if you've taken computer science, the exploration of computer science, you need to take another half year of computer science somewhere within the next 3 years of your time here at BG. So it can be either 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. And so when you're looking at the program of studies and you're looking through computer science, you can decide, do I want to take that sophomore year? Maybe you take the computer-aided design. Maybe you wait and you take graphic design and you take your half-year art credit as a sophomore. And you take health, and then your geometry, Catholicism, chemistry, world history, and your language. But by building your 4-year plan and using the last page of the program of studies, it helps you figure out how you want to take the courses that you want within the time frame. And there is time to build in those classes. So if you take, let's say, art in your sophomore year with the other classes that you have, there's more flexibility in your junior year. So come your junior year, you'll be able to take your American Lit, and then maybe you take a full year computer class, which would meet that computer science requirement. And then you have time to fill in maybe a science class, because there is not a required science class in your junior year, but a lot of students will opt to take a science class in their junior year, such as environmental science or anatomy and physiology. You also take US history, and many students will continue on with language, because when you're thinking into your experience outside of BG, colleges look for more than 2 years of language. And if you're able to do that, then we really encourage students to take a 3rd year, if not a 4th year of language. And then in your senior year, we encourage students to continue on with the track of continue with math. If you can continue with your language, you have to take physics. You have to take economics, which you see under social studies, and also a half year of another social studies elective. So it's mapped out for you so that you can see what you need to take over the next 4 years. And by using the plan that's in the back of the program of studies to fill out what a 4-year plan looks like, you can kind of map out what classes you would take. If you want to take AP classes, how that fits in. If you want to take maybe chemistry, AP Chem or Chem 2 honors, how you can fit that into your schedule with some of the other classes that you have to take. And it's very doable. We have students that will double up and take AP biology in their senior year with physics, if they map it out. And we can work with the students to do that plan and make sure it all fits in. That's why we encourage students to come talk to us to map out that plan and talk to us about what they'd like to do in their future and goals they might like to set when it comes to looking at their 4-year plan. So it's really important that they look at the classes that they've taken, what they'd like to take, and talk to their teachers when they're kind of looking at how they've done and where they'd like to go, and talk to us about working towards that 4-year plan. And all that information, again, is found in the program of studies. And now I'm going to put it over to Miss Gillis, who's going to talk about how to sign up for your classes.
Thank you, Mrs. Futrell. All right, so we're going to be looking at the student experience with selecting courses in MyBG. As parents, you'll be able to view this same information. When you select your child's name in MyBG, you'll have access to this course request area that we're going to look at as a student. The one difference is, as a parent, you won't be able to actually select the courses. Only the students will be able to do that. But everything else that we're going to look at, you'll have access to as well. So the students will click on the course request area here in MyBG. And right at the top, you can click on See More, and that will show you the instructions that also include reminders about the dates for the course selection process. So that's visible to you there. And as has been mentioned before, when the students come in here, depending on their grade level, they will see some courses pre-assigned over here in the My Request area. So we're in the system as a rising junior, who will be, all of the juniors have to take Catholic ethics and philosophy. So you will see some pre-assigned courses over there on the right. The only exception to that is seniors. Seniors have a little bit more choices available to them, so they don't have any pre-assigned courses. Over on the left is where you'll find the information about each of the courses that are available for your child's grade level. The list that you see on the left is a straight up alphabetical listing of all the courses available for a particular grade level. So you'll definitely want to refine that look. There is a search box. So if students know, for instance, that they're going to take band next year, they can search for band and select the course here. Otherwise, you'll notice that there's an all courses dropdown, and that's where students can select a particular department to make their selections within the department. So as Mr. Mullen mentioned, the graduation requirements are broken down by department. So it will be helpful for the students to look at each department as they make their selections for next year. I'm going to go into English. Everyone needs to take English every year. And what we'll see on the left-hand side are the courses that are available for rising juniors in English. Just a few things about what you'll see here. Underneath each course name, you'll see the credit value of the course. We really stress to the students that they need to select at least 7 credits for next year. So they have to keep track as they're choosing their courses as to how many credits they've selected. The length that you'll see, 2 terms means that it's a year-long class. 1 term means that it's a semester-long class. When you click on a course name, over on the left, you will see all of the information that's also in the program of studies. So it will include any prerequisites for this course, a description of the course. You'll again see if it's year-long, and up at the top, you'll see how many credits it's worth. To select a course, students simply click on Add Course Request, and it will be added to their list here. To the right of each of the courses that the students select, they can hit that drop-down arrow. And if they change their mind later on, they'll be able to remove a course request here. Okay. I'm going to select another course over here from the English department, an elective, creative writing. I'll add that as a course request. And I just wanted to point out that in this case, since this is an elective, when the student hits the drop-down arrow, if this is their first choice for an elective, they can add that here. There's also an option where they can add an alternate choice. So maybe their preference is to have creative writing, but that also be willing to take media studies if creative writing isn't available. So they can search for an alternate course here and select that. And then in the scheduling process, we take that into consideration if for some reason a course isn't available to a student. We stress to the students that they need to select 7 credits, but this area they can come into and out of as many times as they need to while the course selection process is going on. So if they make a few selections early in the process, but then they decide they need to talk to their counselor about something, they'll want to click Save over here in the lower left-hand corner. When they exit this screen, they'll see a reminder that they haven't selected enough courses yet, but it will still allow them to save. And then they can come back into this area as many times as they need to during the course selection process. When course selection closes on March 18th, this area will no longer be visible to students and parents for a short while, and that's so that the department chairs can make their placement determinations. So course selection will close. This area won't be visible for a short while. And then after the department chairs have made their determinations for levels, on March 28th, this screen will open again and you'll be able to view it. And it will contain the course listing for the student based on department chair approval. So if department chairs, for whatever reason, feel there needs to be a change in what a student has selected, the counselors will work with students for those changes, and that will be reflected when the course selection screen opens again at the end of March. When it does open, then this will be a view-only area. You won't be able to select any courses or remove any courses, but you'll be able to see what the final listing of courses is. I do want to stress that even though students can select any level of course during this process, so you can see a student can select honors or college prep or AP, they can select those options during course selection, but ultimately the department chairs make that determination of who can take classes at those various levels. So even if a student does choose an upper level course here, there's the possibility that that might not be the course they end up in after department chairs do their review. And once the course listing is made available at the end of March, again, that's a view-only screen. Any changes to course selection or schedules from that point on would go through the school counselors. And that is what the process entails.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gillis. I'm up to talk a little bit about thoughts on course selection. And of course, here at Bishop Guertin, we want all of our students to have a well-rounded high school experience. And for many, this often means that they are maybe for the first time juggling academics, athletics, extracurricular activities, and oftentimes maybe a job outside of school. And for a lot of our students, this can be stressful and overwhelming, and they are challenged to really find that balance. So that's what we're here to help them do. You know, obviously we want them to prioritize their commitments and allocate their time wisely. Hopefully, you know, that is schoolwork, extracurricular activities, and social activities in that order. So when selecting courses at any grade level, we really encourage our students to create a balanced schedule and to be very mindful of the levels that they are interested in pursuing, and also focus their interests, you know, choose classes that are focused on their interests and abilities. So about junior year, we really like to take time with our juniors and seniors to talk about kind of life after high school, and talk about the importance of challenging themselves in the areas that interest them. So maybe encouraging them to take an honors class in, you know, in the English department, if that's what they're really interested in. If you're a computer science kid and, you know, want to get into, you know, the sciences or engineering, then we encourage those students to maybe take an honors class or an AP class in that discipline, rather than, you know, spending their time taking maybe, you know, an honors class in, you know, I say the English department because I just always kind of, you know, separate the sciences with humanities. But those are the kinds of conversations that we're having with our students at that time. So again, we're trying to help them build a balanced schedule, but at the same time making sure that they are meeting all of their graduation requirements. Definitely for grade, you know, we want them, it's important for them to do well and achieve at all levels. Ultimately, what we want for them is to be placed in classes where they feel challenged, but also successful. You know, be proud of the grades that they're earning, and be proud of the grades that will then go on their transcripts, which will, you know, follow them into college, and it will be really important during that college application process. So who makes the decision on level placement and why? I think that Mr. Mullen touched upon this a little bit, and it is the students do not self-select their levels. Placement for honors is done in 2 different ways. Review by the department chair is done for honors placement in Introduction to Lit and Biology. The department chairs review the students' application materials and entrance exam results to determine placement. And then the placement exam is required for any student who is interested in moving above the freshman year course or level in math and world language. So that's really for the freshmen coming in, but for the sophomores, juniors, and seniors, it is the department chair that makes the final determination. And we do encourage our students to have conversations with their teachers and the department chairs if they're interested in taking an honors level class or an AP class. So those are some conversations that we have as well. And then mark your calendars. We have a lot of things coming up in the next few months. So like we said, on March 18th, the course selection online portal closes at 8 a.m. And that's when the department chairs start looking over the students' requests. March 28th, students can view their final requests in MyBG. And also on March 28th, the signed AP forms are due in the counseling office. Now, this is for any student who is looking to take an AP class. They actually sign a contract with the teacher and parent, and those come back to us. Mrs. Poznansky will speak to that a little bit more thoroughly in her section coming up. March 22nd, we have the career fair. That's right here in the field house, where different representatives come from all over the state and represent different disciplines. And it's a great time for the students to be able to go around and just gather information and talk to different people about, you know, what certain careers look like. That's offered for the juniors and seniors. And then April 3rd, we have the college fair. Again, that's held in the field house, and we have colleges from all over the country represented that day. It's a great way for the students to kind of, again, gather information about different schools and different colleges and kind of glean some insight maybe as to what kind of schools they're looking for and that sort of thing. July 26th, the preliminary schedules go out to the students. Again, I think we said that these schedules do not list teachers. The students will get those schedules, I think, the day before school starts. But it will have a full listing of the classes that they're enrolled in. And then August 20th, we say goodbye to summer and we're back in the building. So it'll be very quick. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Posnanski.
So thank you, everyone, and thank you, parents, for responding to our requests for any questions that you may have. And here are some of the questions that were a number of parents asked about. So we're going to address those now. When can a student start taking AP classes? So the rule of thumb is AP classes are considered junior, senior level classes. And the reason for that is because of the requirements involved. There's a bit of prep that a student would need to be successful in an AP class. And so most of our classes are junior, senior level because we really feel the freshman and sophomore classes prepare the students well for AP classes. The students can start out, some of the students right now who are rising sophomores may be in college level classes. So it would be important for them to think about taking honors classes in some areas where they feel they're strong for sophomore year. It's almost impossible to jump from college level to AP in 1 year, but it's not impossible to do college level 1 year, honors 1 year, and the next year do AP. So if the student is really interested, say, in taking AP English language their junior year, and they're in Intro to Lit now, doing well, they qualify for World Lit honors, and then AP, that would be sort of the path that they would take. There is one class that students can take in their sophomore year, and that is Computer Science Principles. But the student would have to really work hard on their schedule in their freshman year to make sure that they, have room for that for their sophomore year, and that's another discussion they can have with their counselor. But AP classes, and I'll share this a little bit more again in the future slides. AP classes are considered college level courses, so the workload and the time that a student has to put into that class is similar to a college course, not high school college level course, but a college course. So a number of questions come up about world language each year, and it's how many years of world language should students take? The requirement to graduate, as Mrs. Futrell shared and Mr. Mullen shared when they were showing you the POS and our 4-year plan, is that each of our students are required to take 2 years of the same world language. So if a student starts out in Spanish, they take Spanish 1, 2, same with French and Latin. If a student is struggling in a language and they want to jump to another language, then they will still have to take another year of that language. So if they start in French and that's too challenging, they go to Spanish, they will have to take Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. So we really encourage students to stick out that second year of the same language. As Mrs. Futrell mentioned, and I think every counselor on this webinar would agree, that we have found most recently in college admissions, it has become a little bit more competitive across the board for students to be accepted to colleges. And world language can be, at times, a deciding factor. 2 years of a world language is the minimum, but colleges would love to see a student taking 3 or 4 years of the language. And it's because many schools don't require a world language, especially in New Hampshire. It's not a graduation requirement. But when they see our students taking 3 or 4 years of a language, they really see a very committed student, and not in a discipline that's very common for lots of students to take 3 and 4 years in. So how many years of world language do they take? 2, minimally. Should they take more? If a student has an affinity to a language and they do pretty well in that course, it would be a really good course to continue with. And many colleges, especially liberal arts colleges, require students who are liberal arts majors to take a world language in college. So it could be very, very advantageous for them to have that background and potentially skip over that course and that requirement in college. They may test out of it, and then that leaves a space open in their schedule in college to move on in the major or take a minor or whatever. Can students study classes specifically for college major? Well, the answer to that is yes and no. The answer is we have classes that are specific to some college majors. We have AP classes we have 21 AP classes. We have AP science, we have AP math, English, and so forth, and world language for that matter. But can students specifically study for a college major? No. The idea behind the BG curriculum as a whole is that the student takes our core curriculum, our basic curriculum, our graduation requirements, that prepares them for any major that they want to take in college. The college program here is so foundational and so strong in sort of the Carnegie units of what college is like: English, math, science, social studies, world languages, that if a student graduates from BG, they pretty much can take and enroll in any major. Now, there's some specifics to that. For instance, if a student wants to do engineering, we really talk to them about taking not necessarily more of something, but levels of something. So things like, they have an elective during their junior year. That might be a year that they want to try AP chemistry, or they want to take Chem 2 honors if they're thinking of going into engineering. Or they might take physics honors and then AP physics senior year. So for certain majors, there's certain things students have to have, and obviously math. That's a major that requires a lot of math. So we want to make sure if a student is really interested in that they would be on the right track. But there are other colleges that have engineering programs that do not require AP. So it really does depend on the student's talents and their interests, and also colleges they may be thinking about. So the other side of that is yes. The other side of that is no. You can't major in anything in high school. But the other side of that answer is that sometimes it helps to make sure that you're in certain classes for certain majors. Can the students pick teachers along with their classes? No. As Ms. Gillis shared with you, the only thing that students can pick are their classes. At this point in time, we really don't know who's going to be teaching what, and we will not know that until July, and that's why the schedules, we're working on the schedules all summer, and that they come out fairly late. Because our schedule, our master schedule, which Ms. Gillis is so kind enough and talented enough to put together for us, comes from the courses your sons and daughters select. So we build our schedule based on students selecting courses. Now, there are some courses that, because they're prescribed, such as you saw with ethics or English classes, all students have to take theology classes, English classes, and certain graduation requirements. We know that everybody's going to have to take those. So it's easier just to schedule personnel to support those. But there are other classes that might not run because of interest or whatever. And so it's kind of an organic process until everybody, all the classes have been scheduled, the master schedule has been built, and we have teachers to teach them. So there's no picking teachers ever, but that's sort of the long and drawn out way of how we do the schedule. But and mostly because we don't know who the teachers are, but also our theory is that students really need to experience all different kinds of teachers. So it's important for them to have that opportunity to have different teachers throughout their their time here at BG. How are students placed in AP and honors levels? I think we talked about that. You now know it's by teacher and department chair review, and also in consult with the student, in consult with the counselor as well. Do students just choose their courses by themselves or with their parents or their counselor? Obviously, we always want to have that conversation with students. So if you and or your son or daughter have a question about courses or their 4-year plan or any of that, please feel free to always contact us. Come in and visit with us. We can show you the four-year plan. As Mrs. Futrell said, that's a great sort of chart to play with. Oftentimes we work backwards with the students. So we look at senior year, what do they want to get to, and work back to fill in the courses to make sure that they can potentially get there. So it's important to choose them with your child and have the conversation, but it's also really important if you have any questions to speak to the student counselor. What if my child struggled in certain levels this year? What do we do? Nobody's chained to a certain level at any time throughout their time here at BG. So we recommend students play to their strengths. So some students are more humanity sided, some students are more math science, STEM sided. Some students are musicians, so they definitely want to take band all throughout their 4 years. They're artists, they always want to take art because that's a place where they find great joy, their passion, and also maybe a little bit of a break in the academic schedule. So if a student is struggling in a certain level, look at the whole picture. As Ms. Tenza said, that the balance of the schedule is so important. And so again, play to the strengths, whatever the student's strength is. And colleges don't have to see all honors and all APs in everything. We have students that never take an AP class and never take an honor class, and they go to fine colleges and do very well. So if a student is struggling, it's worth really investigating why, first of all, and secondly, what we can do to kind of balance that schedule a little bit better. And the counselor would probably have a lot of insight in that. How do students change classes once they receive their schedule? Again, this depends on what class it is, what time of year it is. If it's after this 28th, when students still have their preliminary schedule only and not their official schedule, changes can be made. And if a student maybe didn't get approved for something, and by the end of the year, they have really shown great progress and intent, and have been very intentional about making sure that they're preparing for that honors class that they really wanted to get into but didn't get approved for, then yes, that conversation should happen with the counselor and with the department chair. So things can be organic to a point, but once the school year starts, it's very difficult to change schedules. If the master schedule is built, sometimes changing one half-year course can change the entire schedule for a student based on what course it is, where it fits in the schedule, all of that. So being really mindful about this process right now is vitally important to the student so that they get the best schedule that they can have to be successful in their classes and in their school year ahead. So all of this comes to the bigger question, which is what are colleges looking for in an admissions candidate? So so admissions candidates are it's interesting because we're going to say this over and over again. If any of you have heard us speak about college before, it depends. It depends on the school. It depends on the size of the school, the competitiveness of the school. It depends on the student. It depends on the classes they're taking. But colleges basically look for the same things in different levels of and different degrees of intent. So first of all, they look at the student's transcript. What kinds of courses did the student take? Did the student challenge themselves? Did the student have some consistent achievement? Did they have, maybe a tough freshman year, but work their way up to senior year to really be proud of a really, strong schedule with strong grades? they're looking for all of those nuances in the student's transcript. Are they looking for, they're also looking for the types of courses students are taking in that transcript. Did they ever try to challenge themselves, or did they kind of just go along? Now, there's lots of reasons students don't challenge themselves. As long as they're keeping their grades up, that's fine, but it's also nice to see a challenge here or there. So they're going to look for that. It doesn't mean that the student will not get accepted if they don't take an honors or an AP course. It just means they're looking for challenges. Like, instead of taking a third or fourth PE class, not counting health. So there's 2 extra PE classes that are physically, out doing things in PE, and then the health class. But if the student takes 2 more of those on the side as electives, instead of maybe taking Global American or another academic course, field ecology, that's where colleges may say, well, they could have taken all these other courses in the curriculum, but they took extra PE courses. And it's not to say PE courses aren't substantial, they are, but when a student challenges themselves with an academic course, that looks like a challenge more so. So things like that, that's what they're looking for. They also look for the students' recommendations from their teachers. How is the student in class? Are they prepared? Are they a cooperative team member when they have to work in teams? That kind of thing, or groups. So the teacher recommendations are very important, and the student will request 2 teacher recommendations when they are juniors going into their senior year from different teachers. And we work with the students to choose who that might be and what would be probably the best recommendations for them. They also look at the counselor recommendation. We write recommendations for all of our students. So the counselor recommendation is much more global in its perspective, in that it talks about the student from freshman year to senior year, and also about what they've been involved in, how they fared academically. So it's a little bit more global. The colleges will also look for the student's application, how complete the application is, how are their essays, what are they saying in their essays, how genuine the essays are, how much they can learn about the candidate other than their transcript. So it really makes the applicant look alive and pops off the page as a person. Those are really important aspects of what colleges will look for. And I say this last because this is still in flux, but SATs or ACT testing, colleges will look at, and it sort of depends on the college. So some colleges are looking at it as part of the criteria, one of the metrics they're going to evaluate the candidate by. The other colleges are looking at, if the student wants to send them in, great. If they don't, fine, we will look at them. And other schools are completely test blind, where it doesn't matter if you send it to them, they're not going to look at it. So there's varying things, and that's going to be a discussion that you have once the student becomes a junior, at this time of their junior year, when they're starting to really think about their college list and whether or not to take those exams, so that, or those tests, the SAT or the ACT for admissions purposes. So those are some of the questions.
This is me again. So this is all of our contact information, the counselors and our administrative assistant, Ms. Alcorn. So if you ever have any questions about course selection or beyond college admissions, feel free to contact us. We're happy to set up meetings and just meet you where you're at and just guide you along the process.
So it's back to me about advanced placement. If at this point your son or daughter is interested in advanced placement and you want to sign off, we totally understand, but it's good information to know. So the advanced placement program is a program that is across the country, across the world actually, and it is a planned curriculum for different disciplines, and teachers are required to be approved by the college board, who owns the advanced placement rights. they are approved to teach it. So there is a vetting process that we must do for our teachers who are advanced placement, saying that they will teach this program with all the intent that the College Board has put into it, so that this course, advanced placement course at Bishop Guertin, is the same as an advanced placement course and in California. It's the same as an advanced placement course being taught in Germany. So it's a worldwide idea that if a student has an AP designation, that course is a pretty set course. It's very much like the International Baccalaureate program, in that those courses are designed worldwide to have some consistency. So advanced placement requirements are extensive. So if a student decides to do advanced placement course, these are college level courses, not high school, as I mentioned before, not high school college prep courses, but college level courses, with the notion that students may be getting credit for a college course once they arrive on a campus. So the requirements of the course are very much like a college course would be. So things like between 60 to, 60 minutes to 90 minutes of homework every night. There may be times where they have to do extra work on vacations and things just to keep up or to plan for the AP exam. So the course is taught in great detail at a much quicker pace. So it's for students who really want that challenge, and they are challenging courses. There are prerequisites for AP classes, as I mentioned before. Typically, it's a grade that the student has earned in an honors level course. And also, it's not just the grade they've earned, it's also how they went through the course. So were they on time with homework? Were they keeping up in class? The course expectations are such that when a department chair or teacher is recommending a student for AP placement, they look at the prerequisites, but they also look at the course expectations and how well they feel that student will fit into those expectations. And the reason for that is to make sure that we're not setting them up for failure. It's not to keep anybody out. It's more to help students understand that this is going to require some work, and it is important for them to know that up front. And so it's important for you as parents as well to know that these courses are substantial, but they can be life-changing courses. For many of these students, the amount of information and the challenge that they face is so important and so just so intense that they really feel like they're ready to handle college, and they can be very proud of passing, an AP course as in the grades that they're getting, but also in the exam. But so the courses are amazing, and we really do encourage students to think very, very seriously about working toward an AP placement. The number of AP classes on a student's recommend 3 because of the amount of work, and balance is important, as Ms. Tenza was saying before, and certainly as you look at that 4-year plan that has been shared with you. There's a lot going on. There's 7 courses plus an advanced placement course, and homework and requirements for all those courses. It can get really busy. So the number of classes for each year, we try to limit to 3, but students can take more than that if they feel they can manage it. That's after a conversation with their parents, I think, and their counselor, and then if they're approved for those classes with also the vice principal, because again of the balance of making sure students are sane by the end of their school year. And as mentioned before in this webinar was the AP contract. So we do require a contract, and the reason we require a contract is there's a couple of reasons. One is that students and parents understand the requirements of the course. The course is, as I mentioned, a pretty intentional course with a lot of requirements, but there's also the requirement of taking the AP exam in May of the school year. The AP placement exam is a 3.5-hour exam that the students prepare for over the course of the year. Students must take that to have AP designation on their transcript. If they don't take the test, the AP placement will be taken off, and they will also receive honors level quality points for their GPA. So their GPA will be changed because advanced placement has different quality points. So an A in advanced placement is a 5.0, as an A in college level is 4.0. So it does have significant impact on their transcript. So the contract explains all that. It also has a signature, as was mentioned, from the parents, the student, the department chair, and the counselor. So everybody is involved in this decision. Contract also states that if a student enrolls in an AP course, they're in it for the school year. So they can't, after their first, test or their first progress report, drop out because they're not getting the grade they want. AP will probably be at the very beginning a C or a B grade. It doesn't mean that's how the course is going to end. It just means at the very beginning that's what can happen, because it's a much more difficult course. Students are required to stay in the course if they sign the contract and they've been enrolled in the course. Now, how do colleges look at this? So that's a big question that a lot of people have, and the reason for that is because it's a change in the quality points and all of that. So colleges are going to look at it that you took this chance. So they'd rather see a B in an advanced placement than an A in a college level BG course. So the way colleges look at advanced placement is really different. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The placement tests, again, are in May. It's 2 weeks of testing. The different disciplines that have AP tests are on different days, and they are 3.5-hour tests. And like I said, the teachers are preparing the students all year long for this exam. And so there is a cost attached to it as well. Right now, they're $98 a test, and that includes the test and any kind of processing fee. That changes. The College Board determines the cost. We do not. So again, that's why part of the contract is to make sure you are aware of all of this information. So students are probably thinking, and you're probably thinking, why would a student bother taking an AP course? It's so much work. But the impact of AP courses and the exam on college admissions can be pretty intense. So the course itself on a transcript is important for some colleges to even consider a student for admission. So if a student doesn't have an AP course on their transcript, they won't even look at that candidate for admission. That's not all colleges. That's pretty high-end colleges that are fairly competitive, if not very competitive. So it's always worth really investigating this opportunity to take AP at BG, given the fact we have 21 courses. They're all taught here in the building. They're not online. It's a wonderful experience, but it is a discussion with your school counselor, because your school counselor has been watching you since you were a freshman and talked to you since you were a freshman about how you're doing. The AP exam has an impact in a different way. Some high schools do not require the AP exam to receive AP designation on your transcript. We do. So colleges do not hold to that standard that you have to have completed an AP exam. However, if you have taken an AP exam and gotten a 3 or better, there are many colleges that will take that credit and waive it for your freshman year. So let's say you got a 4 or 5 in your US history exam, then you may not have to take a US history or a history that is required in a general ed requirements for college when you get to college. So you have that free space that you can do something else, work on a minor, do an internship, whatever. And it also saves you money. So it can really work in your favor. For some students, they will transfer in 5 or 6 different classes and sometimes graduate early. So it depends on the college and how they receive the exam and what their policies are. It's not across the board. Again, depends on the college. New this year is that some colleges are offering the AP exam score as an alternative to the SAT. Very few. We know of maybe 2 colleges that are doing this because of the SAT, ACT quandary that has been going on since COVID. This is another way of allowing students to show that testing metric. So we'll keep you posted as we hear of more colleges doing that. But so the exam grade is now maybe potentially part of the actual admissions process. Typically what happens is the exam grade is reviewed once you deposit at a school. You don't use it in the admissions process, but it's used once you've deposited it to give you that credit for that course. So it's not, has never been part of the admissions process until after you were accepted and deposited at school. So this is new. This is new coming in. So we'll keep you posted on that. And then that's it. So again, conversations with the counselors, conversations with teachers is so important. Is there anybody else that has something they would like to share at this point?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, great. Well, they're mowing the lawn outside, which is a sign of spring, so that's good. But I'm sure you can hear it on the webinar. But we'd like to thank you for joining us. We will be sending this out to you, and it will be on the website, so look for it soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You.
You know.